Information about the world of running, inspiration to fuel passion and excellence, and ideas for making connections and finding community. You're listening to A to Z Running. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the A to Z Running podcast, where we help runners thrive. I'm Andi.
And I am Zach, and this episode is fueled by something with chocolate.
Pumpkin too, some chocolate chips. Yeah,
In
chocolate,
fact,
chocolate.
Every episode is fueled by something with chocolate. I just don't always say anything. But Pete reminded me that sometimes it's good to remind you that we're eating lots of chocolate.
I guess so. Chocolate is very happy, and so is running. And this week on the A to Z Running podcast, we're talking about how to get the most out of running, and we're continuing this conversation talking about how to get the most out of social running while training. And for this episode, we're bringing on Shawanna White to help us discuss this.
So this isn't a new topic from A to Z Running, but we do have some new perspectives to add to the reflection. And that being the case, we're probably going to add some significant considerations for you based off of our previous conversations. So 3 things that you want to think about as you listen to Shawanna discuss with us. First, knowing how social running can indeed fit in your training. And that's one of the key takeaways here, because if you have felt in the past that it just doesn't fit well, we have a different answer for you this time. Also, then, considering how to find running partners, Shawanna has some great tips about that and the value of social running in many different aspects, not simply the most obvious things.
Yeah. So if you love the A to Z Running podcast, which we hope you do, please follow and subscribe, share with your friends. Go to AtoZrunning.com, click follow. We would love to connect with you on all the places and the platforms, including on YouTube. And shout out to CJ the Runner, who is also a YouTube channel, and on Instagram, for putting a piece of our episode in his weekly vlog. He started this series called Summer Heat that's really cool about how he is progressing to break 17 in the 5K and 5 in the mile. And he put some of our training tips from last week's episode. So cool.
Why, thanks, CJ the Runner. Also, for commenting enough in YouTube to remind us that there are people who watch videos on YouTube.
Yes. So thank you very much, Corey.
Well, the next few weeks will be sponsored by Roll Recovery, and you probably are somewhat familiar simply because you've heard of this, the R8, their signature recovery tool device. Yes, Andi and I have our own custom R8s. Thank you, Roll Recovery. And the reason you've heard of them is because they do things that other recovery tools do not do. And it's certainly a signature product among a few other highly valuable products. And so we figure, the best way to talk about a really powerful recovery device is to bring on the people who actually make the really powerful recovery device. So we have Roll Recovery's Lewis Falland here to share with you more.
Well, we're excited to talk to you about recovery, specifically Roll Recovery. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and the brand Roll Recovery?
Okay, well, last time I chatted with you guys, I was based in Michigan and I was working for Gazelle Sports. So I'm still in the run specialty realm, but I've now moved to Boulder, Colorado. You can see the mountains right behind me currently, actually, as proof. So I'm the U.S. and international sales manager here at Roll Recovery. My job is pretty much to develop relationships among people who carry our product and try and educate people on how to use it and just distribute it to people that we know would benefit from it.
Very cool. Well, I know that there's some interesting background with some of the key players. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it is super interesting. It's actually what kind of drew me to the brand originally. Adriana Nelson is kind of the beginning of it all. She used to run for the US. She's a marathoner, but now she runs for Romania. She's run like 2:28 or something in the marathon, so she's got some wheels on her, that's for sure. And back in 2012, when Roll Recovery was first getting off the ground, Adriana was in like the peak of her training. And she was seeing professional masseuses quite regularly. and her husband Jeremy was getting a little bit jealous of all the massage she was getting, because he was kind of her training partner, so it was pretty much doing the same mileage anyway. But he didn't have the benefit of what, like, you know, the pros get. So he tapped into his engineering degree and basically just came up with this roller in his garage, quite literally, originally using just like roller blades. And we'll talk about the product and I can show you later on. But yeah, the original prototype, we still have it in the building here, just for memory's sake. But it just looks like something that someone just kind of pulled together, but it did the job. He spread it around to like his neighbors and his friends and family, and they were like, "This is really good," you know. And so they founded together. Adriana and Jeremy Nelson founded Roll Recovery in 2012. So from there, they kind of used some context. They brought one person in on the shipping side of things. They brought another person in kind of on the sales end, and the brand has kind of grown from there. We still only have 9 people fully employed by Roll Recovery and 8 in the building. So it's we're a small, local, kind of close-knit group, but it all started out of necessity, which, you know, that's the mother of all invention, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, we can appreciate Jeremy's desire, and then we're very appreciative of him coming up with this, because we're in the same boat too, because we're not professionals, you know, but we do train very seriously. So right. Having access to equipment like this is a game changer. It really is. This week in the world of running, we have quite a bit of news, but we don't have a lot of time to share it. So we are going to give you the highlights of what we found in the world of running, starting with Sunday, May 23rd at the Muir Grand Prix Gateshead Diamond League event in England. Now, the steeplechase has been an event that we've been discussing recently on the AtoZrunning podcast, and we want to highlight the 2019 U.S. Steeple champion, Hillary Bohr, who just became the 3rd American after Emma Coburn and Evan Jager to win a Diamond League steeplechase.
That's especially significant because the steeplechase is profoundly dominated by East Africans, both on the men's and women's side, over especially the last 2 decades. And the Diamond League seems to be kind of the most challenging nut to crack. We've seen people medal at world stages, but the Diamond League itself is really challenging for the Americans to really kind of crack into. So it's impressive to see Hillary Bohr show up big.
Now, the 1,500-meter run was very exciting. In fact, we have the video to show you. It will be embedded at AtoZrunning.com. Jacob Ingebrigtsen won in 3:36 because it was raining and super windy, but it was a phenomenal race to watch, and he just outkicked Oliver Hoare, who you've heard on this AtoZrunning podcast. So we are totally geeked about this. It was a 3-way race also with Mick Swaney, and he was 3rd in 3:37. So really close race. Oliver challenged Ingebrigtsen, and that was a really exciting race to watch with 100 to go. But Ingebrigtsen he held him off. But it was a very, very good race by Oliver Hoare.
It's really something when you feel like you have to make excuses for someone running 3:36 in a 1,500.
I know.
But when these guys are the kind of world-class athletes that they are, sometimes you do feel like you have to make an excuse, because we know that Jacob Ingebrigtsen can run faster than 3:36, although this was his season opener as well. So maybe a round of excuses here ought to be made. Even so, Ollie Hoare executed what might have been the most flawless possible 1,500 race, but he's on Jacob's shoulder, coming around the bend for the final stretch, exactly where you want to be in this kind of situation. And he starts easing out to make the surge, and Ingebrigtsen had another gear after doing a lot of the work in that final stretch. And that's not a common thing. So props to Ollie for doing exactly what you do in that situation to win a race. And he just knows, you get to see that now, because when it comes time for the championship races, things like that may happen, and Ollie's going to be ready for it next time.
Absolutely. It was really exciting to watch. So make sure you check that out at AtoZrunning.com.
So speaking of meets and impressive things going on Friday, And May 21st at the Trials of Miles New York City qualifier, this time the young ones were impressing radically.
Yeah, because the times are really difficult. The trials times have gone down. Like, they're really, really aggressive standards. And there were high schoolers who hit them. And we want to highlight Roisin Willis. She got the Olympic trials qualifier in the 800-meter run, running 2:78.
That is a fast high school time.
And she wasn't the only fast high schooler in the 800, with Juliette Whitaker running just behind her at 2:01 and Sophia Garinian at 2:02.
Wow. All in the same race.
High schoolers. All of them high schoolers. So it's said by the Mile Split website that it's the deepest high school girls 800-meter race ever.
Those are fast times. And it certainly is likely that, that puts Roisin in like the 15th fastest 800 by an American this year.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
That's blazing.
Yeah. And she's the fourth fastest all time in history. So.
Incredible stuff. So we've got one more incredible track meet to just give you a few notable. If you notice, there are other things that happen at these meets, but we're just trying to give you the cream of the crop highlights, and then you can go to AtoZrunning.com, follow the links to see the full scoops on all of these things. But this one, reported by Athletics Weekly from Wednesday, May 19th's Golden Spike meet in Ostrava in the Czech Republic, and this would have been a new U20 record in both the boys and girls 800 for the British. This was an incredible middle distance performance here. So first for Max Bergen, Britain's Max Bergen, running not just a UK U20 record, but this would have been this is a European U20 record and a new world leading time. He ran 1:44.14, especially because it's 21-year-old U20 European record. So that performance is really knocking on the door.
Yeah.
And he was only 18 years old at the time.
Outstanding. He has a couple more years to improve it.
He's 18 years old, but he's actually 19 because he turns 19 the next day. So he's been alive.
But he still has time to improve that record.
Yep.
He has an opportunity.
Yep, that's a U20 record, so he's got some time left. Well, not to be one-sided here, Britain's Keely Hodgkinson for the women also ran a U20 UK record, and her time was 1:58.89. Very fast.
Wow, these young, fast 800-meter women.
Yep.
That, rocks my socks off.
And Hodgkinson also, this should not be surprising if you've been following her, because she's been winning some medals at various levels in the last year and a half, 2 years. But most notably, just recently in March, ran the gold medal in the European Indoor Championships.
Right.
Like for any age.
Right.
So she's got stuff.
Yep.
And then at the same meet, Jacob Kiplimo also ran in the 10,000 meter, the seventh fastest performance in a time of 26:33 for 10,000 meters.
Yeah.
So, like 13:16 twice in 5K.
Oh.
That's not slow. But he also did it basically by himself. He won the race by over 30 seconds.
Wow.
And the person in second place was not too shabby either, running 27:07, which is something.
Still a fast time.
Also then for Bergen Yamata, that was a new national record for Brunei.
Okay, and that was second place.
And that was second place.
Wow.
Yep.
Outstanding.
So just a quick side note, there was another national record also broken this week, and we like to update you when things like that happen. In the women's 3,000-meter steeplechase for the Netherlands, Irene van der Rijken ran a 9:33, which is a new national record.
Cool. Well, that was a fun world of running, and we'll have more for you next week. We do have one more sad thing to share, and we do want to honor the sport of running by sharing even sad news. And on Saturday, May 22nd, in China, 21 ultramarathoners lost their lives due to severe weather. So very tragic situation. Freezing rain, hailstones, gale winds really took a toll on these runners, and they tried to call off the race. They launched a search party of 1,200 people.
1,200 person search party.
And they did find everyone, and unfortunately 21 were found dead.
A real tragedy. And
Mm-hmm.
ultra runners, there's a degree of risk as an ultra runner. We know this because you hear stories. But there are also these situations where you can do everything you can. You can plan, you can execute the race under all good intentions. And when things like extreme weather come out of the mountains out of nowhere, that's just rough. That's very tough.
Yeah. I did love seeing the photos, though, of a lot of the runners coming together and using each other's body warmth to keep one another alive. It just really powerful. They were doing it for survival. I mean, this is serious stuff. And there were a couple stories of people too that if you wanted to go to the link at AtoZrunning.com, you can read more about it. But we honor those whose lives are lost, and we pray that people will stay safe in this sport. But of course, we know that there are risks too.
Well, as we continue to talk about how to get the most out of running, a compelling topic for any runner because you do want to get the most out of your running, we thought it apt to return to one of running's most constant tensions, which is, do you run with others or do you focus on executing the training that your body needs? And of course, we have spent some time on the topic, as noted a while back. You can read more in our article entitled Social Running Without Compromising Training Needs. And a quick note, we discussed in that article in particular things like understanding your own training and how to really translate what you understand about your training to how you can adapt and adjust things to run with other people, which is an important dynamic when it's a priority for you to be able to spend that time with other people. But then also thinking about what does the communication look like when you're trying to schedule runs with someone and how you can enjoy that time. However, in this conversation, we're going to gain some new perspectives because even with those things in mind, most of us feel that when we run with others, someone has to compromise or sacrifice, right? So it's like I can't do the run that I was planning to do, or I can't run in the way that I was planning, like the degree of effort or as long or any of those kinds of things. We always feel like someone has to compromise in order to run together. And that's why we wanted to bring in Shawanna White, because she will discuss that there's a chance that we can, in fact, have it all in various capacities. And that is a compelling consideration.
Now, Shawanna White is a perfect person to talk about social running because she herself is a social runner, but she's also training at a very high level. She has posted phenomenal time. She's an elite distance runner, a PE school teacher, and a running influencer on Instagram. And Shawanna is one of the fastest U.S.-born Black women in history with a marathon PR of 2:45:19. She also recently tied the age group record in South Carolina for ages 40 to 44 in a state record in the 5K. And her PR in the 15K is 55:03, which is 5:54 per mile. Blazing. And I have more of Shawanna's what would you call
Accolades.
it? Accolades on AtoZrunning.com if you want to check that out. But Shawanna is not only a speedster who trains to win races, but she also trains for the social benefit of running. So let's talk with Shawanna. Hi, Shawanna. Welcome to the A to Z Running podcast.
Hi. Thank you, Andi and Zach, for having me on the show.
Yeah, well, we're so excited because we've been able to connect with you and be inspired by you. And I've just found it such a privilege to follow your journey and your enthusiasm. There's a lot we could talk about. You're a super fast runner, like we just told our audience about. But today, we specifically want to talk about social running and the life and joy that it can bring to this sport that we love so very much. So I'm just going to dive right in and ask you, why is social running important to you?
Well, that is a good question. And I thought about that because I've never been asked that before. But I think social running is important to me because the way that I was raised, like I stay with my grandmother and we live with a bunch of people. So I really honestly just enjoy being around people and I love running. So, combine the two together. happy Shawanna.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really a key thing, because we talk a lot with our audience, Shawanna, about just finding the right balance in life to thrive. And running, for many people, running can be a force for negative in their relationships. That is one of the risks. And so Andy's pointing at me because she knows that has been the case for me. And so what we really aspire toward is what is it that we need as runners to be able to thrive, and how does our running fit in that mix? And so even just your answer there, that's very keen, that you thrive best when you can combine this enjoyable sport passion, and it's much more than just a hobby, because you are highly competitive as well. But when you can combine that with other people, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's ask you this. This is the hardest question, I think. And the thing that we all want to know, how do you navigate social running with your training needs?
Yeah, it's really simple. Majority of my social runs or group runs are mostly on my easy days. So on my easy days, I really can go any pace. So I particularly run with people who are running between 7:30 and slower. So it works out that way. And then another thing that I really, really enjoy with social running, because I do have a coach who advised me for my hard workouts. And so most of the time my workouts don't match with other people, but I enjoy the fact being able to go to the track and warm up with my friends, and then we're both on the track at the same time doing our workouts, but we are at that moment we're encouraging each other. And I can't think of one time where I have had I don't want to say a bad workout, but I like to say a workout that I failed at, meaning that I didn't hit the assigned times. It seems like every single time I am on the track with other people, I always manage to go a little faster or hit the paces.
Mm-hmm. Like feeds the energy of everyone that's on the track together. That's really cool. So let's talk about those easy, you call them sexy pace runs, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I think some of us get caught up in even those easy paced runs. And I love that you shared with us that you give it quite a bit of a range. Would you mind sharing what your range is?
Okay, for sexy pace, the range is 8 and higher. And then easy is 7:30 to 7:50s. Well, 79 to be exact.
All right. Okay. See, that's a great framework.
The sexier. Huh.
Yeah, the slower, the sexier.
Yeah.
That's great. We might quote you on that. I like that. All right. So you gave us a few tips on how to make social running work best. I think I want to ask you too, how you meet your running friends and how you've initiated some of these friendships and partnerships that you have through running.
That is a good question. How did I meet my running friends? Well, it all started in Atlanta, Georgia, where I met my first set of friends. I basically just went online, Google running groups, and just showed up at a running group. And then from one running group, I met two older gentlemen, and they was telling me about the Atlanta Track Club team. And they told me that if I run a certain time, that I would be able to make it on that team. And so that was one of my goals. And then in that process, when I joined that team, I met some of my best friends that I am still friends with to this day, even though I live in a new state. Like now I live in South Carolina, and I pretty much use that same approach. At that time, I guess I used Facebook and saw the groups and just showed up to a group run. Or when I was at a race, I would just talk to people after the race and say, where do you guys need to run? Do easy runs or hard workouts. I mean, honestly, it's kind of funny. Like nowadays, if I just want to run with somebody, I just honestly just talk and just ask, you want to go for a run? Or in this day of time, you can message people on Instagram. I mean, I think about this one guy that I guess I'm kind of like a mentor to him. Like he was at a race and we was around the same pace, and I'm always looking for people who are around the same pace. And I just really looked them up. It's kind of stockish, but I looked at the race results, and then the race results here in South Carolina, they sometimes have an email attached to it because at the time he didn't have any social media. So I just sent him an email, and then we became good training partners before he laid on with the college. So yeah, I just, it's no rhyme or reason. I just talk to people.
Yeah, you initiate, and I think some of us are
Yeah.
afraid to initiate sometimes with people, and that might be a fear that we have. But how many times do people say no? Maybe I should ask you: has anyone ever turned you down?
I believe so. I mean, not necessarily in a direct way. They may have initiated a conversation and asked if they was interested, and then eventually, every time I try to schedule something, they always had something else
Oh, okay.
to do. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna stop beating this horse and keep it moving.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of people who obviously you have a lot of friends on Instagram that I've seen that you've run with. There's a lot of people that are eager to also have a social aspect to their running.
I think too, as I'm hearing you articulate this, Shawanna, that so the why matters here, because so a lot of people will say things like, I wish I had someone to run with, so I could be faster, or so I could not be as bored. There's like a particular reason on their minds at some point. But what it tends to come down to is most of the reason why, like me, for example, I use myself as an example. Most of the reason why I don't run with other people at times when I could is because I just simply have enough excuses in my mind of why, it's inconvenient to try to find somebody, and then I've got to schedule a time, and it might not work out, and I just don't want to mess with it. And so then I don't, right? But if the value is high enough, then those kinds of inconveniences are worth, or the challenges of making it happen are worth it. And that's kind of what what you're articulating here is there's a lot of value from a couple of different directions. And so it's not, you mentioned that you enjoy this and you thrive with this, but also you're gaining benefit in terms of the training itself too, and the experience and the inspiration that comes with sharing experiences with other people. That's huge. Mm-hmm. And all of it told, if there's someone like me out there listening right now who's highly introverted and doesn't necessarily enjoy talking to people they don't know, or don't enjoy talking to people.
You have a
ever.
podcast. You talk to people you don't know all the time.
Because it's easier to talk through scheduled times and screens. But this is this is exactly it, where it's like I would feel so strange trying to talk to someone. Even like I could run a race next to a guy for, let's say, a marathon, for example, a really long race, and I could run next to the guy the entire time. And yet, when we finished that race, it would feel difficult for me to then talk to him and say, hey, we should run together sometime. And yet, it clearly would be worth it. And so that's that tension where you've given us enough fuel to say, even if it's uncomfortable, it's still worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I guess, Zach, I'm kind of like the opposite. Like, I enjoy talking to people more in person than talking to people on screens. Like, screens totally freak me out.
Well, thank you for being willing to do this then for us.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really cool that you've reached out, and not only have you done that in person, but you've stretched yourself, and then you're an influencer for the running community online, and you bring the vibrancy of these runs that you do with people to like the rest of us, which I think is a really inspiring thing too. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
How did that all begin? I know this is kind of off script, but I mean, you're a running influencer. Tell us about how you message on Instagram and what your goal is there.
I think, well, at first, I really didn't even understand Instagram. And then when I honestly started like really paying more attention to it, I was like, wow, this is really cool, because I see all these cool people on here that are inspiring. And then, and at first, Andi, I never ever really thought of myself as an influencer. I just honestly just started off just talking about my runs and how I felt, and And then all of a sudden, all these people started reaching out to me. And I was like, wow, they really are reading what I'm saying and they're really inspired. So I was like, I'm really making a difference in people's lives. And I think about my own coach who made a difference in my life and encouraged and inspired me, because without him, I wouldn't be running. All the running I used to do was just playing with kids. So I feel like, he took the time to give back to me, and now I can use my own running to help inspire other people. And it's pretty cool.
It really is. Yeah. It's been fun to watch your last 5 weeks of racing too. And how fast you've been doing that. Oh, if you guys aren't following Shawanna, you're going to have to do that. I'm going to link to it, and I'll say the handle in the beginning. Actually, you can say the handle right now if you'd like.
It's Peach Runner 26.2.
Beach Runner 26.2. Follow, because she is amazing. I have another question for us here. What do you think are some advantages to running with others versus running alone?
Well, I think number one, for me, being that I'm a female, it's good to run with others for safety, because I typically run twice a day. And so in the morning time, it's dark. So I feel really safe when I'm with my friends, because, as they say, safety in pairs. I think another advantage, that's what you said. Another advantage of running with people is that you can learn new things on the run. Like, you can learn a new recipe. Sometimes it's just a time to just talk about your problems, or talk about, in my case, how work is going. I just feel like it's fun, because you build these relationships on the run. And the friendships are just so amazing. And I think another advantage of running with people, that sometimes when you travel to other races, then you can have a big trip. And so it's fun to not have to go alone. So I think that's another advantage of having running partners, because you can have racecations. And yeah.
Well, we definitely like the sound of that. That's one of our favorite ways to make any kind of trip, is when we can do a race experience. And how much better when, as you say, when you can do so with other people. That's exceptional. I'm curious, because you've given a lot of different kinds of examples of things as we've been talking. Shawanna, is there any particular thing that comes to mind of a very memorable running experience you've had running with someone else recently?
Well, it's not recent. It's in the past, probably 20, I think it was 2019, before the pandemic. So I have this friend, her name on Instagram is The Running Bartender, and her real name is Joy. And for a very long time, we always dreamed of finishing a race together. And every single time that we plan, I'm the one who just can't keep up, and either A, I drop out, or B, I just run really slow that day. But on this one day where we did not plan this, we was just like racing each other, friendly competition. And I know at first she was in front of me, and I was like, come on, Shawanna, catch, come on, catch. So eventually I caught up with her, and I was just running side by side, just waiting to make the move at the last 200, because sometimes I have a good kick. And then she was like, do you want to finish together? And I was like, yeah, you know what? Let's do this. Because every time we tried to plan it, it didn't work. And so, we're charging to the line, and everybody's just watching, like, who's going to win and who's going to win. And then all of a sudden, before we cross the finish line, we grab hands. And it was like the most amazing feeling ever. Like, it was so fun to be able to cross the finish line with my friend. And
that's cool.
And it's so funny. In the community, there were these other two guys who were like just battling, and there was like a Instagram post about, this is how you finish a race, showing me and Joy, and then this is how you not finish a race. But it was really, that was funny. But the part finishing with Joy that's one of my most memorable.
That's a great experience. Yeah, and it's interesting that you try to make it happen for some time, and it's just not working out. And we know, as runners, we all know that you get what you get on the day, and it's not always what you hope for. But then on the day when you're not necessarily planning it, and then the opportunity presents itself. And that's, I think props to you both for recognizing that, we're racing, we're in the midst of a race. And when you're at that point in the race, you're not feeling great when you're trying to finish strong and such, and recognizing here's an opportunity to kind of fulfill this dream that we've had, and then doing so. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Very neat. So how much do your students know about your running?
Oh, they know a lot about it. Like they think I'm a professional runner, and I try to explain to them I'm not a professional runner. I'm just a competitive runner that's trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. And every time I say Olympic trials, they think I'm talking about the Olympics. I was like, no, I just want to run in the race where they tried to go to the Olympics. And they can't grasp that concept, because especially if they see me on the local news, they just like, wow, you are some rock star. But now
you are a rock star.
But now I try to share those moments. I share those moments with them more this year than ever, because I feel like with the pandemic, at first we started with a lot of virtual teaching. And so I think I built stronger relationships, and I have been able to show more of my silly side with them. So, it's really been a great school year. And yeah, so yeah, I share with my running. Like when I think that was week 3. Yeah, week 3 was Myrtle Beach. And so I shared with them my medal, and I shared with my medal, and then I showed them some news clips that was online. And even last week, I told them about my race experience at Tobacco Road, how, I didn't get what I expected. And I explained to them how mentally I lost it because I didn't get to do a proper warm up, and, how sometimes you have to be prepared for the unexpected and just make the best. Because when you get very anxious, sometimes that can affect you in a physical form. So, yeah, I share all that with them.
Oh, that's so cool. They're so lucky to have you. We're lucky to have you too. This is really good. I think it's awesome that you have so many areas of influence. Like you have your students and your running friends, you have your community online, you've been on a few podcasts. I love that you continue to grow these circles of influence, because you do have such joy and an inspiration that is really contagious. Like you're dancing on Fridays. So you're not always running with somebody, but you're still building community. Do you want to tell our audience about what you do on Fridays?
Yeah, on Fridays I do what is called the Friday dance, and originally it was just me dancing, and then sometimes if friends were with me for like a race trip, I would try to, rope them in to dance as well. And now, since the pandemic, I was like, man, I can do virtual dances. So, it all started with Jameson Run. Honestly, I just saw him dancing in a video, and I was like, can I use that clip for Friday dance? And then after that, I just started messaging people, asking them, would you like to join me for a Friday dance? And, sometimes most of the time they say yes, but then sometimes their way of saying no is like, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't able to do it. And then I have to ask people at the last minute, like yourself, Andi, that was so great to join me on one Friday. So yeah, that really has been so much fun. Like I really enjoy getting those videos and, trying to, match the moves. I'm not really a dancer, but, sometimes it's about just having fun and being silly.
I love it. It's so much energy. You had Nate Martin too, right? He's a previous podcast guest. You had him dance with you, didn't you?
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
He volunteered. I was so happy when he said yes. I was like, oh, this is awesome. I'm winning.
So I was a competitor with Nate in college. We ran against each other in some rival schools and raced quite a bit. And a number of his teammates I still have contact with, in fact, even today. But I had not known he did this dance thing. I think I've got to send him a note now and tell him I saw him dancing online and see what he says.
Yeah. Let me know how that goes.
Well, Shawanna, is there anything else you want to leave our audience with? Any encouragement towards social running?
I think with social running, you gotta think of social running as, with social running, you can meet some of your best friends ever. And I mean, I know a lot of people like to run alone, but sometimes just being able to share the pavement with others, I mean, sometimes honestly, you make the miles go by faster, even regardless of what the pace is, because you're just talking. And sometimes when you're not talking, if you're doing a hard long run together, I mean, it just made the work so easier. And, with anything, just have fun. And remember, keep it positive.
Keep it positive. It's a great tagline. Well, Shawanna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We've loved having you, loved connecting with you, and we hope that our audience will connect with you too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shawanna, for sharing your time and your energy and enthusiasm with the running community. We are so thrilled to have connected with you, and good luck in your upcoming downhill mile. Now, in this episode, we talked about finding running partners through running groups, and we do have, for those of you who live in West Michigan, a blog post, an article that has many of the West Michigan running groups. So you'd like to check that out.
Many
of them. Yeah, it's a pretty long list. And make sure you read the comments too, because there's even more in the comments. So if you know any groups in your area, feel free to share them. Hit us up in the comments wherever you find A to Z Running, like on YouTube, Instagram, any of those places. Feel free to share.
And as always, if you feel you're not thriving right now in your running,
or you could thrive more,
which, see, now that's a tough standard, because we could all always thrive more. However, whether you feel like you could use something new, something different, or otherwise, you know that we offer coaching services, and you can check those out at atozrunning.com/coaching. And in all other things, make sure you follow, subscribe, and all of those places where we have presences and social and content posted, so that you don't miss the latest from A to Z Running. Thanks again for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.